We all not gonna be together. This ain't no damn unity party with punks. This ain't no unity party with people who don't want the true liberation of black people. This ain't no unity party with betrayers and snitchers and hypocrites and weak-minded, weak-blooded, spineless black people. This ain't that kind of party. So you take your raggedy ass on home. But those who want liberation, those who want to see black people really free at last, you walk away from these punctified Negroes unless you unite the like-minded of us, whether we are Christians or Muslims or nationalists or agnostics or socialists. If we are like-minded on reparations and on justice for our people, we are brothers indeed. But a black face ain't gonna make you no brother today. Go ahead. We tired of these black-faced, white-hearted niggas. Go ahead, say that. Masquerading as though you love your people. We see you.
Yes, indeed. Hate. That's what we on right now. B1 to the FBA fam out there. There's a lot of different videos that I really wanted to do. All these tethers crashing out. I did want to do something on all these tethers are crashing out. And it's because of us, one way or another. Directly, indirectly, it's the codification. These tethers are crashing out. Seems like after Drake, all the rest of the tethers just started imploding on themselves. It's crazy. I was going to do something like that, but I think this is pretty interesting. Something that I gotta do this one. Are Republicans throwing FBA an alley-oop? Are they throwing us alley-oops right now? Because we've been putting ourselves in position. We've been elevating. We've been getting up there. You know what I'm saying? Ready to score. We've been putting ourselves in position for things like this to happen. The things I'm going to go over. But before we even get started, let me say this, man. And I've said this plenty of times. I really hope people are listening and taking this to heart. We got to listen. We can't be Trump meat riding. All right? We can't be tap dancing for the Republicans. Listen, we didn't jump and run away from the Democratic plantation just to run to the Republican plantation when they haven't offered us anything specifically for us. Look, some of the things that they're doing are beneficial to us. And it's up to us to stretch those benefits and run with it as much as we can and take advantage of some of these things that happen to be beneficial, but don't make any mistakes as to think they're doing it for us. They're not. Even that Trump 14th Amendment stuff, it put it in perspective. It put it on the record, but he didn't really do it for us per se. Now, we could run with it and spin it how we want. We could do what we need to do with that fact that has been put on the record. No doubt. And there's going to be probably other things that's going to benefit us that we can benefit from that this administration will do. I'm not denying that. To be real, a lot of the things that the Kamala Harris campaign was talking about would have actually benefited us. It would have. There's a lot of different things, when I spoke about it before, that really would have benefited us, even from a Kamala Harris administration. The problem would be because she definitely wouldn't be mass deporting and getting some of these, illegals and whatnot out the way, meaning that we'd have to compete with them even for the things that we could benefit from. So it's cool. We're trimming the fat right now, making sure that everybody's qualified. I'm cool with that. I'm just saying, listen, we're not supposed to be I'm seeing too much people, too many people just You know what I'm saying? Going 100% 10 toes down, like Trump is the new zaddy in town. Let's stop that. Because if we do that, all we're going to be doing is switching one plantation for the others. And the Republicans are going to understand that, hey, these niggas just gave 50 years of support to Democrats for nothing. If they come in the game, knowing that we did assist them in this, them getting in office, and if they realize that we're just going to switch sides and play the game for free, they're not going to pay us. Like, these are still racist white supremacists at the end of the day. Just understand that. However, it just so happens that even within the white society, these white Anglos or whatnot, they're also coming to a conscious reckoning and understanding. It's something that they're grappling with and having to come to terms with. And we're going to continue to apply the pressure. I'm not saying that we need to be disrespecting the president, nothing like that. We should definitely be keeping the opportunity for dialogue and negotiation and being able to apply pressure and assert ourselves in the proper ways to be able to be in the conversation for power adjustment and equity redistribution, if you will. And just the same way we're delineating and, we're taking more pride in, we're asserting our stake in America as we assert ourselves as foundation Black Americans, because that's what we are, no matter what you want to say. We were born in America. That's a nationality. We are Americans. I know we were on that. We don't want to be Americans. We're really Africans, man. We really them people, man. Nah, we're not. I can't think of any ancestors as far as I can go back to the great greats that I can trace myself back to. None of them are in Africa. It just is what it is. All right. So the same way we're coming to that term and we're asserting ourselves like that within the white community, there's also like a understanding that is being, coming to fruition. Maybe even a ideological struggle to some degree. Meaning that some of these, alt-right, Republican, don't really like us, don't really like niggas like that. But they do understand that we are actually Americans. And this is what the whole Trump situation, with the 14th Amendment and what he said, that's why that clarified that and put it on the record. So some of these alt-rights or whatever, they're willing to be like, look, we don't necessarily like them, but they are just as much American as us. They've been here for generations, some of them even longer than us. We got to, just come to terms with that. We tried the token minority. That's starting to run its course because now we understand that, saying these different groups that come from abroad will always have some type of loyalty to their native country. Not only that, on an economic level, it means whatever resources they get, whatever they come into wealth with, they're going to send that back. Some portion of that is going to go to empower other economies. So if they're saying they're American first, and we're saying, hey, we're American. You can't take that from us. We are American just as much as or more than you. We're Americans. You can't deny that. So they understand that, okay, well, whether it's reparations, which we'll get to in a minute, or any kind of different resources, any kind of wealth building that we do as FBA is going to be distributed within this nation and build this economy, strengthening this economy, rather than these resources that are going to whatever, South American, Venezuelans, whatever, Nigerian, whatever, Asians, which when they amass a massive amount of wealth or resources, they're going to send it outside the country. So they're understanding that. Don't get me wrong. There are some of these, white supremacists who are superficial, just like some of us are superficial, where it's all about symbology, symbolism, which is an important thing in itself. but it is not to be taken as more important than actual sustainable, tangible goods and services and acts and deeds and resources. I mean, and there still is that level of, hey, we don't like Obama being a president. Like, that was a real thing. Even in this race, a lot of it was the same way that, like I said before, we didn't mess with Kamala like that. We questioned her blackness. We knew she wasn't FBA. She's foreigner/foreigner, a Jamaican Indian. Like, so we put that in perspective with some of the things that she has said and done, so we wouldn't get the same Obama effect where we're just voting because she's of color. So as we may have been critical of what her disposition was culturally, to them, they did, and so maybe that might have made us not really rock with her or connect with her. But they didn't see her as non-black, and her not being white and her being a woman and her having any kind of blackness is partly why they didn't want her in office and why they did her the way that they did her. Like, there was real, I'm not going to say that there wasn't any legitimate reasons for America rejecting Kamala. There was. What I'm saying is the vast majority of white folks, they just didn't like the optics. So that is a real thing. But also a real thing is some of these white supremacists, which is why you'll see some of these alley-oops that are going to be coming our way, whether they're purposely to help us or whether they just inadvertently do. And since we put ourselves in position, we take advantage. Because some of them do understand that, hey, no matter what I feel about them, they are American. It will be more beneficial for them to get these resources rather than these foreigners or these foreign countries or other places where they go that doesn't actually help the economy or the country. See, they understand the contributions that we've made cannot be matched by anyone else, even themselves. So we're the necessary evil that they have to accept. And when I say evil, I'm saying it not literally. I'm saying they understand that, hey, no matter how they feel about us, and on that same token, we shouldn't care about how they feel about us. It doesn't matter. We're not doing this to be accepted. We're not the tethers. The tethers want to be accepted. Yeah, they want a better life, but they want to be accepted. That's like the number one motivator behind what they do. Second to the money, as I've told you before, as I've showed you before. Myron Gaines being the biggest example. How many times have he crashed out platforms and been demonetized for saying reckless things to get acceptance from white people? The way he crashes out on us and other, people that may be quote unquote protected groups to appease the white supremacists who don't like him, who recently and often tell them, hey, we don't like you, you're a nigger, you got to go back to your country, whatever. But he's willing to endure that for acceptance, for the perception of acceptance, which he'll even sacrifice his own physical well-being and his monetary, the way he eats. He compromises both of those for acceptance. That's not us. You know what I'm saying? We don't care about how they feel about us. We don't care about if they tell us sorry. We don't care about if they love us, if they accept us. Put some respect on our lineage. And put some money where your mouth is. Yeah. So understanding this from that perspective is how you come to the conclusion that no, they're not purposely looking out for us, but we could take advantage of some of the things that we're seeing happening. And some of the things that are happening are majorly influenced by us controlling our own narrative, which is why it was important to delineate, to make that distinction. No, we're not them. They're not like us. Don't lump us in with the people of color, black and brown, or one big black, when we know that there's a whole different disposition and agenda with some of these black immigrants and then with us, and they come in conflict too much. If they didn't, we wouldn't have had to delineate. That's the truth. If these black immigrants and other off brands, as I call them. It's not disrespect, just saying if they're not black, off brand is the term that I use. So if you ever hear me say it, now you know. If they were working in cohesion with us, then we wouldn't have had to do this delineation. Because collectively we could have all ran the table and we all could have came up. But unfortunately, like I said, too many of these tethers, other immigrants, not only do they look out for them first, which they're supposed to do, but many of them purposely tether off of us, benefit from our existence and what we have done and our ancestors have done, but also harbor hatred and contempt towards us. That's why it couldn't work. So we had to delineate. The delineation process is working because remember, we are American. You cannot deny our Americanness. Anyway, I don't want to get into all that. So what I'm saying is sometimes they throw us these alley-oops. As you can see right there, alley-oop. Look at that. Bam. So we're in position. We elevate it and we dunk it. But at the same time, we do got these tethers when you look at this one. See these tethers, he looks like he might be a tether right there. And they're trying to interfere with our alley-oop. They're trying to interfere with our bucket. They're trying to get in the way of our resources. And that's why it's good that we're getting them out the paint. Saying about no hatred towards anybody, but look, if you're Hispanic and you voted for Trump, if you were foolish enough to think that you weren't going to be at risk of being deported, if you're that dumb that you vote against your own self-interest like that and put you and your family at risk like that, I can't really rock with you anyway. I'm glad that this thing is happening with all these mass deportations because it's getting this clearing the way. Let's be real. A lot of them harbor hate for us, and they also come in proximity of us. So one way or another, they end up attaching themselves to resources that originally should have been ours. But let's just be real. That's a fact. And a lot of them are criminals, and they're bringing crime. And one of the things is when it comes to, unfortunately, some of these black immigrants, their shenanigans get lumped in with us. Their victories they take for themselves. So now we got to just clear the air and be, for what it really is. So this is a good thing that's happening. Rather, it's directly supposed to be for us, which is not, or it just happens to benefit us because we've put ourselves in position, and that's exactly what it is, and that's exactly what we have done. But let's get to this first clip. This is President Trump speaking at a GOP event, and this is him speaking on the 14th Amendment. Let's hear him out.
Resignation. And as we are fighting hard to get birthright citizenship or automatic citizenship for the children of illegal aliens, that's another way. It's automatic citizenship for children of illegal aliens. That's the other term that they use, which is actually more accurate, more understandable. And it's ridiculous. We're the only country that has it, and certainly the only country that has it to that extent. And it wasn't meant, if you look, it was really meant for children of slaves. This is when it happened. The children of slaves, it was not meant for everyone to come into our country by airplane or charging across the borders from all over the world and think they're going to become citizens. It's not meant for that. It wasn't meant for that. And hopefully at some point the courts will understand that without having to go through a whole
I like that.
big
I like
deal.
that.
This was meant for the children of slaves.
Listen,
And
like I said, I like that. I like the fact that he's backing it by saying, hey, you could even look at it. Hopefully we don't even have to go through it. But the Supreme Court, which he owns in part, because he's appointed the majority of the people. Plus he has a Senate and the Congress. He's saying, like, you can even go to the Supreme Court. You can really just look at the documents and the timing of it. We know what it was. That's cool because that puts that on the record. And that's an alley-oop, nonetheless. Now, was he doing it because he wants to benefit us? Who cares, really? At the end of the day, who really cares? The only reason why we have to make that distinction is so we don't get to meet rioting and doing all this buck dancing for Trump or the Republicans. So we can hold them to task and levy the pressure that we have. Put the leverage to use that we have. Because whether they want to admit it or not, they know, those who do the statistics and who really know, they know that we assisted them in getting into the White House and into power right now. So really, what he was saying this for was just to basically clear the path and justify what he wants to do, which is ship out all these immigrants. Because let's be real, he doesn't care if they're illegal or not. See, here's the thing: Republicans and Democrats, they both have a use for immigrants. It's cheap labor. Democrats also use them as, pressured for the model minority to use against us and try to replace. They did other extras with it, but they both use them for cheap labor. But you only need so much cheap labor, and at the end of the day, that does cause a problem, as slavery did. But that's a whole different situation that we'll touch a little bit later. So he's really doing it for that reason. However, if there's facts behind the 14th Amendment being for us, and there is, and if now it's on the record, so now that it can't be misconstrued, so that these others can be like, you know what I'm saying? Because they try to, like I said, they tether, like we've been knowing, like we've been calling it out. They tether onto things that we did or that was supposed to be for us, so that they can levy them in with their own benefit, which wouldn't have been a problem if they was on code with us. It wouldn't have been a problem. But when you do that and then you come against us, that is tetherism, and we gotta cut that out. So ship them out. I'm cool with that. So that's an alley-oop just by him putting that on the record. So now there's no mistake. It is what it is. And like I said, some of these white supremacists, even some of these alt-right, some of these folks that don't really like us like that, still understand, if you want to get to it, and if you really want to be American first, then it would still be better for the Americans, and that includes us, to have the access to the resources over those who didn't put in the work of building this country and who aren't, citizens like that. They understand that. So just to put it bluntly, they understand, like, look, I'd rather give the money to these niggas than these foreigners, especially if they're over here doing crime and whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop. Some of these alt-rights understand that. That's why we're getting access to these alley-oops, because we put ourselves in position for this. And now all we got to do is run with it. But don't fall in love with it and think that it, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is politics. This is chess time. This isn't checkers. This isn't pity pat. This isn't red light, green light. This ain't hopscotch. This is chess that we have to play on a global stage, on a national stage. So we're going to use some of these things that are happening because we're making them happen in part, and we put ourselves in position. Now, this is something interesting that I seen. I was in a Tariq Nasheed Twitter space the other day. Somebody shared this in the little thing, and it says, this is Ann Coulter. Now, Ann Coulter is like a alt-right. She's garbage. She's trash. She definitely ain't with us. We'll just leave it right there. But check this out. Look what she's saying. And this is something that I think we could use to our benefit. I'll tell you why in a minute. It says, I would support slavery reparations if 100% of the funds were taken from these BS charities that drag third worlders into our country, paid for by us. And this is in regards to somebody else that was tweeting. And they're giving an example of $289 million that goes to Catholic charities. And these Catholic charities, this particular one, is for refugee resettlement, cash and medical assistance. So in other words, $278 million, which is a drop in the bucket to the economy, but that's $278 million that could be redirected in various communities that would benefit us, if nothing else, right? That's just for one charity. So basically what she's saying is, look, man, take all this money from these charities that don't really benefit, that's going to immigrants and blah, 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 blah. That's how she's how she's framing it. She said she would support the slavery if the reparations came from there. What she is saying can be used, because basically what she's saying is, look, as long as I don't feel like it's gonna, and this is something that a lot of white people are thinking, it's gonna come from the taxpayer money, it's not fair, blah blah blah. Even though it is, but that's the sentiment that's keeping resistance, and we can neutralize a portion of that resistance. This is something I've been saying for years. If you watch some of my live streams, you've seen I couldn't find the picture that I was looking for. It's on my other computer, but I did find something else. And this is something that I've been having with discussions with people. I think I was on a Afro Elite. That's okay. Afro Elite had a Twitter space, I want to say in the summer, with Black Alpha. And I was able to join and chop it up for a minute. I thought I recorded, but this must have been on a different phone. And one of the things I said is, look, I believe that if we push the narrative, this is something I've said before, I've said it on this channel, I've said it for years, I said it on Facebook years ago. If we were to identify some of these companies, some of these corporations, some of these banks, some of these, industries that benefited and that still exist, then we could put pressure on them in a class action type suit, or commission the government to, escrow some funds from all of them to be distributed. That could be a big portion of the reparations of the cash payments. And if we did it like that, and if that was the narrative, I believe a lot of people feel the same way Ann Coulter feels. They might support it. Okay, you're going to take it from these corporations, not from our taxpayer money, or maybe only some of it from our tax, whatever. I believe we can neutralize some of the resistance like that. Because now it doesn't seem like it's coming from even though some of it will have to, even though the government definitely has to play a role. But I think some people would see that a little bit more digestible. So the same way she's saying, hey, take it from these charities. Okay, cool. That's a good idea. Bam. Throw that in the coffer. But also there's some of these companies that still exist. Now, don't get me wrong. These companies and corporations, they have lobbyists that are going to definitely put money in the bag of some of these politicians. But that's just where, we got to play chess, and we got to apply pressure, and we got to have our own lobbying going on. But the people will back it more. As long as that pressure and that assistance comes from the people. See, like when we're organizing on this, we have to try to get alliances if we can. We can't purposely not have allies. We just got to cure the allies. We got to make sure that we refine it to the point to where those who are going to be allies are going to be real allies. We don't need no fluffers. We don't need anybody in the way just, trying to sabotage. We need real diehard, stomp down, boot stomping allies. And some of those alliances can come from white folks. Or at least if they're just neutral and not in the way, that would help. Or if they neutralize some of their own. And I think some of these tactics are in play now. They're on the table. Something I've been saying for years. This tweet just proves what I just said, or what I've been saying. There are some people, some white folks, even that have influence, even some of them that are in power, that might be more supportive of a reparation that's not just based on taxpayer, or at least don't just put that narrative out there. Of course, some of that's gonna have to, you know what I'm saying? That's our money too, of course. If they can send it to Israel, they can send it to Ukraine. If they can give it to these immigrants, as they have been doing for years, yeah. Some of that taxpayer money is our money anyway. But that doesn't have to be the narrative. And if we broaden the narrative to include things like this, then Ann can just be full of shit right here. She could, but the tweet's out there now. So that means that, okay, so we start identifying. Let's see some of these corporations that you never knew benefited from slavery. Lehman Brothers. There's one, Lehman Brothers, whose business empire started in the slave trade. That's where they started. Their business empire. Lehman Brothers is a large Were they insurance? You can tell by the name that their affiliation. No, but I ain't trying to do one of those. I'm just saying it is what it is, though. 2939 small hats, whatever you call them. But that's where it started. Lehman Brothers. Remember, Lehman Brothers, we actually did a bailout in 2008, 2009. That bailout after the big, financial bubble, for those that remember, Lehman Brothers was part of that. They got hundreds of billions of dollars. So Lehman Brothers could be targeted. They benefited. They're still here. Aetna. They benefited. The United States' largest health insurer apologized for selling policies in the 1850 that reimbursed slave owners for financial losses when the enslaved Africans they owned died. Slave masters, these colonizers, these devils would put insurance policies. And it wasn't just like if they just died. When it says if they died, that means like even if you beat it to death. Insurance. You got these niggas insured. They're still around. They were part of that bailout too. Nevertheless, they're a multi-billion-dollar corporation, industry giant. So they could be on the program. JP Morgan Chase, your bank. Somebody banks there. Of course, you could be banking at, One United. At least opening up an account there like me, but whatever. JP Morgan Chase is a bank that many people bank at. Recently admitted their company's linked to slavery. Today, we are reporting that the research found that between 1831, that Turner Rebellion, and 1865, two of our predecessor banks, Citizen Bank and Canal Bank in Louisiana, accepted approximately 13,000 enslaved individuals as collateral on loans. They was using niggas as collateral. That's deep. Why can you do that? Because that's an asset. That's the banking stuff that, we'll get into that later. If you follow me on my crypto channel, you'd understand collateral debt position. But anyway, they accepted collateral. Niggas as collateral because niggas was assets. Niggas is still assets. So JP Morgan. Yeah. Run the cash. Run the money. Cough it up. Cut the check. New York Life Insurance Company. The largest mutual life insurance company in the United States. The largest. Why are they the largest? Oh, because they had their money leveraged in the nasty business of the slave trade. They also took part in slavery by selling insurance policies on enslaved Africans, on enslaved Black Americans. USA Today reported Wachovia, another bank now owned by Wells Fargo, has apologized for its ties to slavery after disclosing that two of its historical predecessors owned enslaved Africans and accepted them as payment on behalf of Wachovia Corporation. I apologize to all Americans, and especially African Americans and people of African descent, said Ken Thomas. That's a good start. But we need that money too, though. We need that money. NM Rothschild and Son Bank in London. They're in Britain. Okay, that's a nod. That's an alley-oop to the brothers and sisters that are in the UK. There you go. Norfolk Southern also has history in the slave trade. The Mobile and Girard Company, which is now part of Norfolk Southern, offered slaveholders $180, today that'd be $3,300, a piece for enslaved Africans they would rent to the railroad for 1 year, according to records. So when they act like we had nothing to do with building railroads, it was all the Chinese, that's cap. Cap. The Central of Georgia, another company aligned with Norfolk Southern Line, today valued its slaves at $31,000, which would be $660,000 today on record. USA Today has found that their parent company had links to the slave trade. USA Today, you've heard of them, right? Fleet Boston, CSX, used slave labor to construct portions of some U.S. rail lines. So, come on, man. Fleet Boston, they had evolved from an earlier financial institution, Providence Bank, founded by John Brown, who was a slave trader and owned ships that transported, the Canadian National Railroad Company. That's Canada. You know what? We can get in on that. If not, saying there's some of us that did go up there. So, hey, y'all get in on that, whatever. Brown Brothers Harriman, the oldest and largest private investment bank and securities firm in the United States. What? The oldest and largest private investment bank and securities firm in the United States, founded in 1880. USA Today found that the New York Merchant Bank of James and William Brown, currently known as Brown Brothers Harriman, owned hundreds of enslaved Africans and financed the cotton economy by lending millions of Southern planters, merchant, and cotton brokers, or millions to Southern planters. Oh my God. Oh boy. Brook Brothers, the highest end suit retailer, got their start selling slave clothing to various slave traders. Look how these cats just parlayed slavery into a multi-generational fortune. Yes, we're coming for that check. What did King say? Yeah, we're coming to get that check. So this is my point. When we see things like this, well, she just put it on the table to her people. It should have already been on the table for us. The idea that we, let's, and it has been. We've there's been different references made to how some of this money that's being wasted could be going to us. We understand that. Now it's on the record on a bigger level. Now it's being on the record by even an anti-black hater like Ann Coulter, or at least that's the character she plays, and she plays it very well. Someone on the far right, respected in that realm, is saying, look, I would support slavery reparations if all the money came from bullshit charities. So in other words, hey, as long as the money came from somewhere where it didn't seem like it would benefit or where it would be a detriment or interference or come out of my pockets, fuck it, give it to them niggas. So that sentiment is out there. Now we leverage that alley-oop and we expand it, because there's more than 15 major corporations that's profited from slavery that are still around right now. All the wealth of this country. You notice how when I was reading those articles, those little, tidbits about the companies, the largest, the oldest, the biggest. Right. That lets you know right there, like that's evidence that all of the wealth of this nation was built because of us. We were involved in it. Yes, some of these alt-right people who are adversaries to us, really, some of them do understand like we're playing chess. No feelings, let's just be real. Look, it'd be better off if we did right by the niggas than to keep giving it to these foreigners. Some of them are willing to basically say that. That's their sentiments. That's how they feel about it. That's okay with me. Some of them understand, like, yeah, I know it's cool to have these, these tethers and these foreigners that can undermine the niggas first, but we don't need that right now. See, this is why these tethers are going to fall off. This is why these Myron Gaines at this point are useless. These Tommy Sotomayor's and these other niggas that want to coon and tap dance, they're useless. You are useless right now. They don't need a mouthpiece to say the things that they're afraid to say. They're not afraid to say them anymore. They got Twitter, Elon Musk, How Hitler nigga. Shit, they got the Senate, they got the House, they got the mandate of Trump landslide victory, when a lot of his supporters are straight white supremacists. Some of them card carrying white supremacists. So they don't need the buffer. You go say the stuff that we're afraid to say. They don't need that no more. They don't need to be PC anymore. They're done with that. So you niggas are done now. You're useless. So y'all didn't understand. This is why we're trying to tell you, like, yo, you guys are crashing out. You guys are doing the most. It's not benefiting you. You're doing it for nothing at the end of the day. You don't know how to play with these devils. This particular nuanced European American here, you guys don't understand. We know these cats. We fought for everything. We forced everything. The way you guys thought you were going to come in and tether and tap dance to the top, it's not going to work. Now you got to go. Now you're getting up out of here. Now they're letting you know, no, 14th Amendment, that's for them. It don't matter if they like us. It is what it is. And they do understand whether they want to admit it or give us credit or not, even though, Trump has to give some credit. They understand that the reason this country has came into wealth and was built by us. It wasn't built by y'all. Even where y'all come from, y'all couldn't build like us. Like, you think that you guys want to keep on saying it was like it wasn't us that built the wealth of this nation. Like we just lucked up to be with these particular white folks. That's not the truth. It was us. That's why you didn't build the kind of things that we did in the countries you fled from. I don't care if you came, whatever, Venezuelans, Hondurans, Jamaicans, Haitians, Nigerians, y'all didn't build and innovate on a global scale the way we did. You didn't even build culture that's globally respected and imitated like we did. The idea that we could have needed help to create hip hop is preposterous, whatever the word is. Sedacious. It's nasty work. It's diabolical to even try to utter your mouth to say that. When we created every form of music that is popular globally today, it's either ours or a derivative of us. Very, very few exceptions. Even the South America, I'm just saying, very, very few exceptions. We're not bumping any of the shit that y'all do. We're not dressing like y'all. The world ain't it's us. And this isn't to be boastful. This is just to be honest about it. So when we tell you to shut the fuck up, soak up some game, get on code, there's a reason we said that. Now y'all learning the hard way. So these alley-oops are not, it's not in a vacuum. Like, we've put ourselves in position for this. We've manipulated and pressured and had influence in the way this thing is going right now. And we're coming into our power and understanding that. And our power isn't in big numbers necessarily, if those numbers aren't codified, legit, strong, and pure. So us saying we're FBA, look, no. It ain't just Negro. It ain't just African American. It ain't just all blacks. No. We're a specific lineage. Separate, non-immigrant, those who built this country. So we put that on the record and we stood on it because that said more than just we're not the same. They're not like us. It said we are the ones who are entitled to the benefits of resources in this country, especially those that we fought for and that were made for us. So recognize these alley-oops. We ain't falling in love with the Republicans, just one more time, but recognize these alley-oops and let's stretch it out. Let's play ball. Let's dunk this shit. Let's take it to the hole. Take it to the hoop. Let's take advantage of all these different benefits, all these things we put ourselves in position for. But listen, and not that it matters, but just understand, just so you don't get, you know what I'm saying, just so we don't get lost in the sauce and get played like we did by the Democrats. They're not doing it for us, even though it does benefit us. And even when we run the play with the Democrats or the Democrats get in, we still apply that same pressure and we make them do things. And even if we can't get things that are specifically for us, make sure we get things that benefit and make sure that we're able to take advantage of things that could benefit us. See, by getting all these immigrants out the paint, it means that these resources can now flow to us, or some of these things that we would have to compete for resource-wise, we have less competition. We're getting them out the paint because they're not, you know what I'm saying, they're not entitled to it. They're not worthy. We couldn't go to their countries and just go and get $10,000 in food stamps and free housing. We couldn't do all that shit. So we're saying, now we need to take care of it's America first. It's what the Republicans said, American first. Well, we are foundational Black Americans. So we running plays. Anyway, that's it, y'all. If you listen this far, make sure you give a like, subscribe, a comment, all that good stuff. I'll holler back. Be one.